Any of yous out there looking for a backup gun? Something you can get relatively cheap that's going to be small enough that you can carry it in your pocket, maybe? May I introduce to you the Behrman 22LR. Let's get to this. So here's the impulse buy, guys. This is a Behrman Industries branded Derringer style 2-shot single action only pistol. Behrman Industries took over for Cobra at some point last year, I believe. But either way, we're going to go through this gun, and we're going to go over a little bit of history on this style of a firearm. Before we go any further, we're going to do the safety check, because you always want to be absolutely sure when handling a firearm that it is safe and unloaded, which this one is. So, a little bit of history on the Derringer. It is named for the man who designed and manufactured the original pistols, Henry Derringer Jr. Henry Jr.'s father was actually instrumental in creating the Kentucky rifle, which was used in wartime efforts. Henry Jr. ended up taking a home in Philadelphia on, I believe it was Front Street, where he would operate his business of manufacturing these pistols. The originals were called the Philadelphia Derringer. They were flintlock or caplock pistols, single shots. They ranged in calibers, most commonly being the .58 caliber ball shot. Unfortunately, one of those firearms was eventually used by John Wilkes Booth in the assassination of President Abraham Lincoln. Where it gets interesting here is Henry Jr. did not patent any of his designs or the name of his pistol, so people who were employed by him would eventually go out on their own and they would start developing, building, and marketing similar guns that they were calling Derringer pistols. As a result, Henry Jr. would spend a great deal of time over the years in courtrooms suing these people, but because he did not have a patent on anything, he really had no case. The only thing that he could do is go after them if they attempted to call the weapons Derringers, which they were able to get around by simply misspelling his last name. Later through time, and with the development of different style cartridges, development of smokeless powder and things of that sort, the design of the weapons would evolve to being 2-shot pistols with a hammer that would fire the guns. Now, these things would be commonly referred to as Saturday night specials. The definition of a Saturday night special would be a small caliber, small framed, inexpensive pistol that just about anybody could afford. In, I believe, 1968, the United States government banned the import, manufacture, and sale of these types of guns under the claim of they're unsafe because they're so cheaply made and so cheaply marketed. There's really no way that you can guarantee that they're going to be safe to use or carry. And the ACLU, as well as the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, filed civil lawsuits against the federal government to get these laws repealed under the premise of banning the manufacture and sale of inexpensive firearms was, in turn, a way that they were infringing upon poorer families and poorer black people and everyone from being able to exercise their Second Amendment rights. One thing you need to keep in mind with regards to the Second Amendment, it is not a class-specific right. Anyone who is not a convicted felon or convicted of an enumerated offense, per United States law, has the right to exercise their Second Amendment right. So, past about, I believe it was 1972 or 73, these weapons were readily available again on the market. This one in particular is chambered in .22 LR. It has extremely extremely primitive sights, as you can see right there. They're not the most accurate. It is not the easiest weapon to be able to aim if you're intending to use it for a distance shot. This is more so a close quarters weapon. Now, in order to load the weapon, what is recommended on most owners' manuals for most of these style pistols, especially this one, is you need to have the hammer at a half-cock position before loading the rounds into the chambers. And the reason for this is because of the placement of the firing pins. If the hammer were to be all the way forward, there is the possibility of the firing pins making contact with the back of the rimfire cartridge and thus creating a situation of a negligent discharge. So either way, what you do, quite simply, is you load 2 rounds into the gun like so. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually drop those back out because there's no need to have a loaded firearm for the demonstration of this video. But once you have those 2 rounds in, you swing it shut, close that, and the weapon is ready to go. Now, this model has a safety mechanism on it. When you push that side forward, I don't know how well you can see in the light here. I'll try to get a flashlight on it. If you can see there, there's a little piece that blocks your hammer from making contact with the firing pins. When you knock it over to this side, it frees it up to where the hammer being cocked will then allow the firing pin to be struck. This has a 2-piece hammer system on it that will allow you to fire each shot individually. This is not just an automatic 2 shots get fired. It's cock, fire the top, cock, fire the bottom. And then after that, you swing it open, empty the casings out, load 2 more, close it, and you go again. It's an American-made weapon. It's not something that I would recommend as a primary carry weapon by any means, simply because it's such a small caliber. A .22 LR is considerably smaller than most other rounds that you could carry. Like, for instance, a .45 ACP. As you can see, there's quite the difference in the size of those rounds. I personally wouldn't want to carry a .22 LR as my primary defensive weapon. I would much rather carry .357, 9mm, 38 Special, even a .32 ACP. This would just be a little plinker or backup weapon. But either way, it's a very easy weapon to be able to operate. You simply cock it and you hit the trigger. Now, the way that these triggers are designed, as I'll show you here, if it can focus, you saw how the trigger came up, right? Now, the way that this operates, you can't just simply pull straight back, white knuckling in and it's not going. You have to pull it in a downward and backward motion. So you pull in a sweeping motion in order to get the gun to fire. Reload times are not the greatest. Capacity of the weapon is not the greatest. But still, it's an interesting little conversation piece. Thank you, and have a great day.